Hi there, this is Steve. Just gonna do a quick look at the ground control software. Now they're working on changing some translation issues, just some text stuff. I think I'll do a more in-depth look at the ground control software in a little bit once they've sorted those things out. But we're just gonna do a quick overview on what you see and maybe throw in a few waypoints and edit them, that sort of a thing. Just real basic stuff. So you can see here you have your Google Earth overlay. As you can see, I click on the little hand. Just like anything in Google Earth, you can change the angle. That's just pushing down on your scroll wheel. You can look around. You can use your usual Google Earth um, scroll bar and everything over here. So nothing new there. You have all of your drop downs at the top: File, View, Path Settings, Tools, Reverse Servo, Capture, Help, pretty standard. And then you've got a ribbon of buttons here. On the right hand side we have our airspeed, altitude, engine RPM, and then your artificial horizon. In here, this space tells you your flight mode, autonomous, manual, circle, that sort of thing. This is the target waypoint. That's the waypoint that the autopilot is attempting to achieve. In here you can change the target waypoint to whatever you wish at any time. Here you're going to change the altitude. A thing to note here is that if you change the altitude here just once, it will change that altitude for all the rest of your waypoints. You will have to manually go back and change them. So it's not recommended that you use this dialog box to change your altitude. Below it we've got just a few buttons probably commonly used. So this is enable and disable your automatic snapshot, so your camera, the output to your camera to take a picture. Manual snapshot, so that's obvious, it's going to take a single picture. Need to find out what get position data is for, but I believe it's for after you take your pictures, and it tells you the position, bank angle, and everything of your photos. This is obvious. Enable and disable RC communications. So you just click a button and it will either enable or disable your RC. So if you're going to fly out of RC range, but you want it to maintain its flight path and continue on with the mission, even though you don't have a long range receiver, that's how you would do it. Engine stop, this is for gas engine. Auto land, we're going to change this, I believe, to release parachute, because this auto land makes it sound like it's going to land on the ground, but in actual fact that feature doesn't exist. That's just releasing the parachute. This setup button is, there's certain features or things you can do in these tools, and you need to click this initial setup first, and then quit initial setup is obviously to get out of that mode. Nothing to worry about there just yet. That's a little bit down the way. So let's just start by first we're going to open our data connection. But of course, what we have to do before that is tell it which COM port. So under Tools, Options, this is where you're going to select your COM port. Easy to figure out if you've ever done it before. In here, just leave the default configuration from the data bits, parity, stop bits, and flow control. They're all default, but you must run at 38400. So make sure if you're buying a modem, 38400 is an option. If it's not an option, your modem will not work. Parameter settings. So the default altitude for all the waypoints you're going to put in is found here. So I've just put 200 meters in here. Altitude deviation compensation, that's something we can get into later. So I just say OK here. So everything's good. All you have to do is now go under File, Open Data Connection. So click that. Now you can hear the GCS is functioning. You can hear it pinging away in the background. If that pinging stops, it means you've lost a data connection. So we can make that happen pretty easy. I'll just unplug my modem. There. So it's not pinging. It means we've lost data connection. I'll plug the power back to my modem. Now we're back up and running. So down here you've got a whole bunch of information all of a sudden displayed. Your altitude deviation, distance to base, flight time, elapsed time, temperature, that's a text we'll have to correct. Satellites, 7 satellites right now in my basement. RPM sensor is not hooked up. Autopilot voltage is 10.8. It's telling me that my RC is disabled. If I clicked enable RC, this would change to enable. It's telling me the parachute is enabled, so that means that if I click to release the parachute, that it would actually release. Current airspeed is normal to jump between 0 and 15. I can actually zero that altitude and airspeed if I want. Probably a good idea to do before each flight. Current altitude is 0 meters. The altitude that we have it set at is 200 meters, and the set airspeed is 100 kilometers an hour. This is just telling you your servo positions, rudder, aileron, elevator, and throttle. Median, they mean that it's in the middle. Throttle is 110, and elevator is pull 6. So ultimately, you're pulling back 16. Now, I don't have my transmitter connected at all right now. So this RC is set to permanently disabled because it doesn't see an RC signal. Stick with the bottom here. We can click on other data. We've got all of our GPS data, latitude, longitude, GPS date and time, serial number. I'm thinking this is of the autopilot. Battery milliamp hours consumed, battery amp hours consumed, accelerations back, down, and right, course angle, static angle, vibration state. And now we're getting this text cleaned up here. It says it has 7 waypoints loaded into its memory right now, and photo number here. So now what we're going to do now, the next tab over is voltage data. This is the autopilot voltage. You get to set these numbers, maximum and minimum. Currently my real time is 10.8 volts, and 9 volts is what I'm saying is the minimum for it to run at. Servo voltage is a separate power supply for me. I put 4.7 as my minimum voltage, and 5 is my current. Now I'm running an external BEC, so I'm always going to have a continuous 5 volts. If this drops at all, I want to know about it. That's why I put minimum here. Now when you put in these numbers, it's going to give you audible warnings to tell you if there's something going wrong. So let's go look at those now. I'll put this back to flight data. Now if I go Tools, Voice Settings, in here is the text to speech. You can test it by clicking this. I don't know if you can hear that. So what I've done is enabled all of these, check them all off. So when I lose GPS, it'll tell me. When parachute status changes, when you achieve your present altitude, it tells you, and your RC state. If I change my RC state to disable or enable, and then you can actually, let's say the altitude interval, it's going to tell me while I'm flying every 10 seconds what my altitude is. And then if I want the same for RPM and voltage, it can just tell me we could set it to say every 5 seconds. Because I really want to know if my low voltage is popping up. So I click OK here. I'm not sure if you just heard that, but it just told me my altitude is 0 because I've enabled the altitude in the voice settings. So I'm going to disable that so I don't have to hear that constantly. I'm going to say OK. So that's the 3 sections here. Let's go across the toolbar, across the top here. This first one, we'll get into that in a minute. So what I'm going to do is we are connected. We have 7 satellites. I want to know where my plane is. So I go under View. I'm going to check off Navigation Position Bar. Oh, so now I've got this pop up. I expand it. I double click the plane view. Now I can see where my plane is. So here's my plane. That's my house. Everything's looking good. So now that I know where my plane is, I actually want to look at it from the top. So I'm going to say focus on the aircraft. Sorry, let's say I'm scrolled over here. I've lost my aircraft. I click view, focus on aircraft. It brings me back. Let's see here. I want to look down from the top. So what's here, they call it bird's eye view or top view or plan view. So now we're seeing the plan view. Now if something goes sideways, we can focus on aircraft. I'll just zoom in a bit.